Yeah.
Hello, everybody. So my name is Matt Abbott. Thank you very much for signing up to this workshop. The workshop's going to look at identity, so using poetry to explore and express your identity. The way I've structured it is I've got 5 exercises that'll take up around 15 minutes each. I like to do that because sometimes when you go to a workshop and somebody sets up an exercise that's like half an hour and it's not really working for you, it's a long time to just sit there waiting. So what I tend to do is do shorter ones that will hopefully plant a seed for you to then go and develop later on. I've allocated like 5 minutes after each for people to have a chance to share. But if on any of them nobody shares, I've got some backup exercises to fill the time. And if we do fill the time with reading, I'll give you homework. So either way, hopefully you'll have a satisfactory 90 minutes or so. So just to give you a little bit of insight, I've been writing poetry for about 15 years. I got into it through lyrics mainly. And I must admit, I was very, very slow to come into actual poetry. I thought I was a poet. I was obsessed with Bob Dylan and The Cure and Billy Bragg and, you know, lyricists. I only really started getting into poetry properly in my mid to late 20s, but I've been doing poetry full time for about 6 years and I love it. And so I'm not an expert by any means. I ain't got a degree. I'm not formally trained. I'm sort of self-taught, but I just love doing sessions just because I think it's always useful to hear a writer share their ideas and prompts and stuff like that. So the first one that we're going to look at is place. And the title of the exercise is I Come From a Place. And I'm going to read a piece which is by Maria Ferguson, who I'm very lucky to be married to. But she wrote a one-woman show called Essex Girl. And the reason she wrote that is because she found out that in the Collins English Dictionary, there's actually an entry for Essex Girl, and it says, Essex Girl, a young working class woman from the Essex area, typically considered as being unintelligent, materialistic, devoid of taste, and sexually promiscuous. That was genuinely in the dictionary. And so it prompted her to write this show called Essex Girl. Now, obviously, I'm not an Essex girl, but I'm going to read the prologue to the show, which will hopefully kickstart this first exercise. So, I come from a place full of sticky dance floors and early morning chips, where broken glass on surfaces is to be expected, where we walked into clubs 3 years or more before we had sufficient ID, and push-up bras and platform wedges hid a multitude of sins, where we thought that sticky back plastic on passports could hide the fact that we weren't yet women. I come from a place where they still call us whores and sluts and bitches, unintelligent, materialistic, promiscuous, devoid of taste. I come from fake tan and miniskirts, white stilettos and highlights, home of the chav, council estates, the BMP and makeup caked onto skin that never needed it. I come from always wanting more, city boys and commuters, fake tits at 16. I come from amateur dramatics, drinks thrown in faces on Friday night, time and envy under 18s, WKD blue. I come from over the knee white socks, pleated skirts rolled up high, white eyeliner GHDs. Catcalls in the street, house parties, saving up for Burberry scarves, moodies from the market. I come from snooker halls we could still smoke in, parks where we kissed boys in the dark and they tell their mates we went further than we actually did. Adidas trackies, estuary English, shuttle bus to Sugar Hut, too much skin, free champagne, constantly lying about your age, constantly wanting more, and now I'm growing up way too fast. I come from, oh my God, shut up, from you're mugging me off and leave it out. I come from doing anything just to be let into a club. I come from believing that success looks like a ring and a house and a pram. I come from 2 Weatherspoons on the same street, pound shops and bookies, champagne taste, lemonade budget, whatever job will get me rich, whatever clothes make me look fit, whatever car makes me look slish, might be drowning in debt, but I still look sick. Oh, babes, I come from Essex. Now, what I love about that piece is that it takes obviously quite a lot of negative stereotypes and negative labels and potentially negative images, but where it holds them aloft with pride, and it just really looks at it really honestly and openly and closely. And I think you could write a similar piece no matter where you're from. Now, it doesn't have to be negative. It can be positive. It can focus on any aspect that you want. But I would love, just as a 5-minute free write until 1:45, just to do a free write. I come from a place, and just think about where you consider to be home, whether that's Glasgow or somewhere else. And just for 5 minutes, I come from a place, and just think about the things that maybe people judge you because of where you're from, or maybe things that this place has taught you, what it's given you, what it's denied you. Just, yeah, in a snapshot where you are from, because it is a big part of your identity, I think. So yeah, I'll stop talking just for like 4 or 5 minutes and have a go. And if anyone's got any questions, just ping them in the chat. I'll give you another minute. Okay, I've got a mini challenge for you that sort of relates to this. I wasn't sure whether to throw this in or not, but I'm going to. Basically, my challenge is to have a little look at what you've got so far, and for whatever reason, pick out or underline or circle 4 words, right? Any 4 words that jump out. Obviously, try not to use like the or a. Like, obviously, like 4 interesting words that jump out, right? And try and write a 4-line stanza that uses all 4 words in any order. They might take on a different meaning, but basically look at what you've done, your free write, and just pick out 4 words, underline them, and then use them to write a quick 4-line stanza. I promise I won't get you to share the 4-line stanzas if you don't want, but it's the technique that I use quite a lot. It's always difficult judging this bit, how long to give you, because I don't want to rush you. I'll give you another 2 minutes. Okay. I know that was quick, but just like a warm-up exercise just to get the juices flowing. Has anybody got a line or anything at all that they want to share, like a phrase or an image or anything at all? No worries if not. I just always like to give you the chance. Yeah, Donna, cool.
I really enjoyed that actually. I took the 4 words and I just distilled what I wrote in the free write into that one stanza. So I can read both, or I can read the second part. What would be best?
You can read both if you want, yeah.
Okay. I come from a place of be seen and not heard, of being fed last, men first, give up your seat if an adult needs one. Be quiet and uses on, green chill, turn your head. I come from a place of endure and don't tell, no one's listening anyway, go and play, the adults are talking. I come from a place of tired eyes, is it home time yet? I don't want to stay. I don't want to stay the night, I'll have to share a bed. I come from a place of 1980s, Thatcher's wains, of being a stereotype age 7 in a single parent home. And then I wrote, I'm fed up waiting for life to start, enduring long days of no say, tired of the fight of shaking off a heavy stereotype.
Wow, cool. Love that. I really like that. Because as you know, like oh, Holly, do you want to share as well? Oh, sorry, it did the little yellow.
Yeah, it was a clap hands.
Oh, clap hands. Sorry, I'm still sorry. So like, what I always find, and I'm not trying to mansplain here. I'm just telling you why I gave that exercise. Obviously, as your first draft, you just go and like free write on the page, and that's why your subconscious is just running away with itself. And by doing the thing where you underline the words, it's almost like a Derren Brown thing. You don't really know why you're underlining them, but you're underlining them for a reason. And then forcing yourself to then do found poetry based on those words, I just find it's a really good way of like working through your subconscious and sort of blending conscious thought with subconscious free writing. That might sound really pretentious, but like what you just did, Donna, I love that because you just condense it down. And yeah, it's just a nice way to sort of start thinking about where you're from, which forms a big part of your identity, I think. Did anybody else have a line or anything they wanted to share? Cheryl, yeah?
I did quite a big free write, so I'll just read those 4 lines.
Okay.
I come from a place where industry boomed, where jobs were plenty, toil and sweat. Then the powers that be decimated it all, replaced swathes of history with a giant Tesco.
Ooh, nice. Yeah, I mean, not nice, obviously, but lovely poem. Lovely poem. Yeah, that's brilliant. Yeah, the Tesco. I know it's heartbreaking every time I see a Tesco like that. I always think that must have been a great pub or whatever. Anybody else want to share anything? Oh, Jacqueline, yeah, great.
Yeah, it's all a bit muddled, but I come from a place that exists as a memory I hold as a child, clutches a cuddle cloth to see her through the darkest night. It is a flat fields and skyscapes dotted with pink thatched cottages whose interiors I imagine as too cozy for strife. I come from a place where they flatten all their vowels and beautiful and computer and who sound just the same. I come from the smell of the sugar beet factory and the salt sting of desolate coastlines. I come from a place where men are boys until their fathers die. I keep this place as it was, as it will always be.
Wow, beautiful. I love that's such beautiful imagery in there, and I love the range as well, like the contrast. That's brilliant. Okay, so that was the first exercise. We've got started. We've got the ball rolling. So the second one I want you to do is I want you to pick an item of clothing that, for some reason, has been significant in your life. It might be something that you still wear / still own. Might be something that you really represents a former you, or that you still wear despite being different. Like, basically, I just think that clothing is such a gateway into identity. It's how you express yourself to the world. I'm not talking about designer gear or whatever. Whatever it is. If you saw a picture of yourself from 10 years ago, you probably would remark on what you were wearing. Unlike me, who's just worn the same since I was 15 because I've got no set style or fashion. But like, clothing is such an important thing. Even like a Fred Perry polo, it's a statement, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? So I want you to pick an item of clothing that stands out for you, that's significant for some reason, and I want you to write a short letter to that item of clothing. Think about where you went with it. Think about the things that you did, who you were at that time when that really defined you, where you got it. Maybe you might have lost it. It might still be in a box upstairs and you can't bear to throw it away, even though you'd not be seen dead wearing it. Basically, just have a little think about this item of clothing. Might be shoes, jacket, hoodie, dress, something that you wore to your first gig. I don't know, a band t-shirt, whatever. And basically just write a short letter to this item of clothing, thanking it for its service, for example. So yeah, a short letter to this item of clothing. I'll give you 5 minutes again. I should also say that I know it's frustrating when society puts you in a bracket or judges a book by its cover or whatever. I know that that's not a good thing, but I'm thinking more of ways that you positively assert your identity by the clothing that you wear. And I know it can relate to sexuality and gender. It can relate to music. It can relate to all kinds of things. So this is your positive affirmation of your identity, and maybe recognizing now how much you've changed, or how this item of clothing is like a constant comfort despite the change. So it's however you want to interpret it. I'll give you another minute or so. Okay, so just finish off the idea that you're on. If we've got time at the end, I've got another exercise that sort of follows on from this. We'll see. But basically the idea is that you imagine a washing line with various items of clothing that sort of like were significant at various times in your life, and then you write a quick list poem about these items of clothing and sort of see what story comes out. But if we've got time, we'll work on that. If not, I'll just set you it as like an extra task. I want us to look at a couple of different ideas, but does anybody have any lines or snippets that they want to share about their item of clothing or from their letter to their item of clothing? Cheryl? Yeah.
I'll just read a couple of lines.
Okay.
Pencil skirt, 1977. I bought you at the market in Birmingham, the indoor trendy one where music played at full pelt. When I wore you first, I felt like $1 million. You went so perfectly with stilettos. That smart jacket had been lost without you.
Oh, nice. I love that. I love that.
I love that market. It was so cool. It was such a cool place.
Yeah, I bet. I bet. And we just have like shopping centres now. It's not quite the same. Or Tesco's. It's not quite the same, is it? Thank you, Cheryl. That's beautifully evocative. Thank you. Jacqueline?
Yeah, I mean, I've got some ideas from it. Strangely, I have kept my wedding dress in where I'm from, my mum's house, in my brother's wardrobe, and I'm questioning why I've kept it, because I've been divorced many years and it's not a great reminder. So I'm sort of questioning why have I kept all these decades living in my brother's spare room wardrobe. I never really liked your style with your high itchy collar and tight nylon sleeves. I had wanted a Laura Ashley cotton lace with fresh flowers in my hair. I could not give you to my children. Who would want to wear you after our divorce? You are lined with misfortunes. Perhaps you could have been used as a pantomime Cinderella. At last, then you would feel useful. I can never try you on again, even though you would still fit me. I fear I would look like Miss Havisham when I would long to be Estelle and curse the day I married you.
Oh, wow. Wow. I mean, I think, wow. Yeah, I mean, obviously there's so much in that. There's so much in that dress and sort of the memories. And this is the thing, like, for whatever reason, the dress came into your head, and that's, I don't know if you've written about your divorce. Obviously, I don't want to pry, but like, that's what clothing can do. It just instantly. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, I've never really
powerful.
thought of it before, and it's like, why have I got this dress in there? You know, it's quite a big thing, you know. So
yeah,
I mean, when my mum's in her 90s now, so obviously one day the house will be cleared, and you know I suppose the dress will be thrown away. But it's interesting, the associations, like the pencil skirt and the memories that evokes, doesn't it? You know.
Yeah. Clothing's such a powerful thing. Does anybody else want to share? Donna or Holly, do you have anything you want to Yeah, cool. Thank you for that, Jacqueline.
Thank you.
Yeah, go for it. Okay. Dear Denims, I've stuck with you like a trauma response. You're never perfect, but I just can't give you up. And we remember versions of each other that no longer exist. You slung low on my hips when I had my first kiss. Belts just for show below peaking thongs. Halcyon, long gone.
Nice. Belts just for show. I love that. I've seen so many belts just for show in my time. That's brilliant. I love that. Thank you, Donna. That was great. Okay. So, and oh, by the way, if anybody wants to share anything but you don't want to speak it, feel free to type into the chat, like it's whatever you want to do. Right, so I've got a couple of slightly quicker ones now. Like, and this first one, it's not even really poetry, but I think it will almost certainly kickstart a poem. This might seem a bit weird, but basically for the next few minutes, I want you to try and write a recipe to a meal, ideally from your childhood, but basically a meal that you would always cook at home. and basically just with little instructions, and maybe think about the place where you can envisage cooking it, like the specific kitchen. Now, I know that sounds weird, but like food is such an important part of your identity and who you are, and it can relate to class, it can relate to ethnicity, it can relate to geography, whatever. And again, I'm not talking about budget, like showing off having like Waitrose, this and whatever, but just write a little recipe, just for like 2 or 3 minutes, a recipe that stands out, ideally from your childhood, but any time in your life. And think about condiments and stuff as well if you want.
Sorry, Matt, can you just repeat what you've said? I'm trying to parent at the same time and I'm just going to lose my shit any second now. I didn't hear anything. And you're on mute.
I'm on mute. Sorry, Holly. Yeah, basically, this was just a really quick fire exercise where I wanted you to write a recipe that stands out, ideally from your childhood, but like at some point in your life, and not just writing the basic ingredient. Oh, I think Holly might have gone. Oh. I'll just give you another minute or so to finish up the recipe. I know it's not a poem, so I'll give you another minute or so. Okay. If you just, unless you, well, I mean, if you all want a bit longer, I'm more than happy to. I've not really done quick fire ones before, but if it's possible, wrap up, and I'll ask you what your recipes are for. What's on the menu? Oh, here we are. Holly's rejoining as well. What's on the menu at yours, Jacqueline?
Suet pudding, meat pudding. My mum used to cook it, and it's a sort of pudding you just boil all day. You know, it was in a big pan, and the smell of home and gravy, and sort of.
Lovely.
I wouldn't like it now because I'm a vegetarian, but you know, it's
no, but the sound of a pan bubbling away and the smell from the other room, and
brings back memories.
Thank you, Jacqueline. Yeah, basically, Holly, what I was doing was it was a real quick fire exercise, and I was asking people to write a recipe that they remember from earlier in their life, so from childhood or whatever. It was just a quick fire one, and not necessarily a poem. It's just that food like that is such a big part of identity and stories, and it almost always leads, like the clothing, it almost always leads to a poem. So it was just, I read something in a Kit Duvall book the other day, and her childhood food was so drastically different to mine, and it's stuff you don't really think about, but it was such a vivid thing to read, and it just sparked off loads of ideas. Cheryl or Donna, did either of you, are either of you willing to share what your meal was? Cheryl?
Yeah, mine was cod in parsley sauce, oil in the bag, And Cadbury Smash.
Oh, Cadbury
Right. Yeah. Nice. I love,
Preferably the powdery one, because I weren't really keen on the clumpy, the clumpy, lumpy things. Yeah.
brilliant.
Oh.
Yeah, I get that.
We
What about?
didn't eat expensive food in our house.
No. I used to have cod and butter sauce all the time. I love that. What about yourself, Donna? What's on your menu, if you're willing to share? No worries if not.
That just give me flashbacks. Those boil in the bag cod and parsley sauce. Mine is very similar actually. Although I remember my mum and my gran cooking ham and chicken Findus crispy pancakes, Heinz baked beans, chips from fat fryer. I still can't say deep fat fryer. Ketchup, Kiora, and a biscuit from the biscuit tin.
Brilliant. I love that.
Those Findus crispy pancakes that used to burn your tongue. Oh my gosh.
Good. See, all different meals, but all the memories that come flooding back. I just think food is just such a great thing to write about. And like I say, it's something that it's hard to be subjective about it sometimes because it's just what you know, but it's such an important part of who you are. Okay, right. So my next.
Brief?
Oh, sorry.
Can I just
yeah.
brief really quickly? Because I was already seething, and then you were just talking to me, and my laptop battery died.
Oh, no way.
I'm just fuming right now. I just needed to get that out so I can continue because
Fair enough.
Thing.
I know that you didn't have a chance to do the exercise, Holly, but if you were going to write a recipe for a meal, like from your childhood or whenever, what springs to mind? What do you think you'd write about?
It won't be a recipe, but I would write about, well, I've been needing to write one about these banana cornflakes. We used to have banana, not cornflakes with banana in, banana flavoured cornflakes. They were absolutely vile.
Fair play. Okay, yeah, no, I just love like little quirky meals, and it's just a great way to bring back memories. So the next one I want us to focus on, right? The title of this exercise is you walk into a room, right? And basically, I'm going to give you a choice. Either think of a room where you feel absolutely at home, like the most comfortable you'll ever feel, or think of a room where it's the complete opposite, where you don't belong, you don't feel comfortable, you don't want to be there. Now, ideally, I'm thinking of like a public space, so like a venue or a shop or a restaurant or a bar. You know, sometimes you walk somewhere and you're just like, I do not belong in here. I'm going to give you an example, right? So there's a pub called The Viaduct in Leeds. I don't know if anybody else knows it, but in the mid-noughties, it was a popular football hooligan pub. You would go in there on a match day and there'd be people with swastikas tattooed on the hands, shaven-headed, hooligan, like proper Stone Island gear, whatever. And 5 years later, it was a drag cabaret bar. So you've got drag queens going in there. You've got loads of LGBTQ people. It's a big pride pub. And it's the same room. And I know that some people, I know this is really weird, some people would walk into a drag cabaret bar and feel intimidated, but feel completely comfortable surrounded by thugs and hooligans. And vice versa, some people would feel very intimidated by the hooligans, but feel totally at home in a drag cabaret bar. Some people wouldn't like either, but my point is it's the same room. And I think your identity, sometimes it's partly what you are telling yourself, and sometimes it's partly what the room is telling you. But either think of a room where you are absolutely the most comfortable you've ever been, or a room where you're not. My instinct would say that the room where you're really not comfortable probably reveals more. But basically, start your poem with, I walk into a room, and I want you to envisage a room and think about all of the things that would tell you whether you do or don't belong. So say if you walk into a room and your favourite song's on the jukebox, I'm always thinking of pubs, sorry. Your favourite song's on the jukebox, or if you walk into a restaurant and you can see that they serve your favourite drink, or you walk into a shop and they're playing your favourite song in there. I don't know, but it might be a football ground, a gallery, a shop, a restaurant, a pub, a family member's house, a hotel. I don't know, but basically, I want you to just for 5 minutes, I walk into a room and just list all the things in the room that tell you whether you do or don't belong. Sensory things, other people, just without saying what you're doing, just you're making this snap-second judgment about whether you do or don't belong. That might sound a bit weird, but give it a go. And if anyone's struggling, just message in the chat, because I've not tried this one before, but I think it'll work. And again, it's only how you feel. It's only you deciding if you don't feel like you belong there. I don't want you to feel like I'm putting society's judgments and pressures on you. But we all get a feeling of belonging or not belonging quite often. So it's just how you feel. That's all it is. Another example, if you're struggling, and I'm reluctant to bring romance into it too much because I know that romance is a difficult thing, but imagine where you'd be happy going on a first date. Because say if somebody picked a first date location for you, but they didn't tell you where it was, you might turn up and be like, oh my God, what is this? Or you might turn up and be like, wow, okay, this is so like, even like different cinemas or different hotels or restaurants or shops, or somebody might take you on a date to an old library, or somebody might take you on a date to a nightclub. I know which one I'd be happier in, but yeah, that might be an indicator as to what sort of thing I'm talking about. I'll give you another minute or two. Just going to get a drink. Won't be a sec. Okay, so just wrap up the line that you're working on, and then I'll see if anyone's got anything to share. Does anybody have any lines that they want to share, or even just tell us what the room is, or just any sort of indication of how that was? Oh yeah, Jacqueline, yeah.
Well, I took the room as the MRI scanner, where the skull and crossbone on the door, then the dim deception of softened light, a hardened bed instead of soft duvet, a tunnel not of love but of accusation, and a disembodied voice telling me, hold your breath, breathe in, breathe normally, wishing I could control what they see, take away the mark on my lung, Photoshop the pictures to see only good. It's kind of the idea of, you know,
Okay,
when you go into, if anyone's been to have an MRI scan and, you know, wanting to control it, but being totally out of control. And yet the rooms themselves are very, because they have to dim the lights. And so it's almost a deception that it's something gentle and soft, and yet, you know, it can lead to sort of, you know, really harsh news and devastating news.
Yeah, and even like you said, with the skull and crossbones on like the door or whatever, it's just everything in there is unsettling, and you want soft edges, and it's harsh. I totally get that. Wow, just
something I need to work on, you know, but it's just
powerful.
like a few ideas.
Yeah, well, that's, as I said at the start, I always try and give people shorter exercises that will hopefully sprout ideas, because I've done a few recently where it was like a 40-minute exercise and I just wasn't interested in it, and it was upsetting. So yeah, but that sounds like a really powerful and important poem as well. Like hospitals in general are, very strange places. Does anybody else have anything that they would like to share from that exercise, even if it's just the name of a place or anything like that?
Mine was just about
Cheryl, yeah.
Mine was just about a local pub when I was a youngster, and about going back years later, and nothing's changed at all. It's still the same. Apart from the fact that the two guys that run it now, they're married. And it brought back a memory because we were talking to them. It was at a funeral wake that they did for a family friend and whatever. And we were talking about the history of the pub and how long we'd been going there and whatever. And I told them about the time a boyfriend of mine just leaned over in the lounge bar to give me a kiss. And it wasn't like a full-on snog or anything like that. But the barman was quite serious when he yelled across the whole lounge room, "If you want to make love, you can go outside." And I mean, we were young and in love, and it was like, oh my God. Thought we'd never be able to go there ever again, but we did.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, good. I'm glad you got over it. But like your idea of a perfect pub, right, will be someone else's idea of an awful. Do you know what I mean? Some people walk in and turn their nose up and walk straight back out again. And I'm sure that their idea of a perfect establishment would, you know, so like, I just think that your identity, much as like a lot of us might like the same kind of thing, it's still part of you and where you feel comfortable and where you feel at home in it. Like where you choose to spend your free time and hang out with your friends, that is a big part of your identity. And once you've got over, I mean, when I was 17, 18, I used to go to nightclubs every week as my mates did. And when I decided that I hated nightclubs, I just felt a lot happier in myself. Anyway, sorry, it's not about me, but I just love how spaces can do that. Does anybody else have anything that they wanted to share from that exercise? No worries if not, like, but I always like to offer. Okay, right. So the next one is potentially going to be a little bit controversial, but I think it's important, and I think it's probably relevant to the times a little bit. Basically, I want you to have a little think about flags, and I know in Glasgow in particular, flags are very provocative. So I don't want to bring up anything that's too traumatic. I don't want to upset anybody or make anybody angry. But I feel like flags are such a powerful thing and can be so deep rooted in your identity. Now, whether that is a union flag or a rainbow flag or a F1 starting flag, a Saltaire, a St. George's Cross, a trans flag, it can be absolutely anything, right? But flags are such a powerful thing. And depending on who you are and your identity, you can react in different ways. Like, and the Union flag in particular is a very, very, very powerful thing. And basically, what I want you to do is think of a flag and try a little bit of personification. So try and write this flag as a person. Basically, describe a character that represents this flag, which I know sounds a bit weird, but again, give it a go. I was working on a poem about the St. George's Cross the other day, and I wrote a poem about a man called George sat in a pub and like watching everything that was happening in his name, supposedly. But yeah, no, have a go at writing the personification of a flag for the next 5 minutes. And see what comes out. And again, if you're struggling or you've got any questions or you want to chat it through, just unmute or type in the box. But yeah. if you have no thoughts or feelings whatsoever towards any flags at all, then perhaps it could be something about how ridiculous it is when you see people burning flags or parading flags or using flags to behave in certain ways. The Euros being a strong recent memory, but you know, it can be anything. I'll give you another minute or so to work on that. Okay. Did anybody have any? Well, did that work for anybody? Does anybody have anything
It's really tricky,
Cool.
isn't it? Because I feel like flags are really political, aren't they?
I know, and I'm sorry
To write about them. I wrote a little bit. I wrote just a little bit. Because it could lead on to something bigger. I am a flag all silk and folded. Pick me up, take me home. Dangle me precariously out of your bedroom window. I'm only a few quid. Why not keep up with the Joneses?
Okay, yeah.
Because I think sometimes people get into the whole flag thing because they feel like they should have flags.
Yeah, I know. It's a very strange thing, and they almost sometimes get told off for not having one, and then it's no, and I know that politics is a tricky one, and I try not to make my workshops too political, but I'm always interested to see what people think. What about yourself, Jacqueline?
Yeah, it's difficult, as Cheryl said, but I was just looking at I was on my phone looking at the flag for Georgia, because my son lives in Tbilisi in Georgia, and just sort of the whole idea that most people don't even know it's a country, and yet very proud of their, their heritage and independence, and just think that they're, muddle it up with the American Georgia, and him being part of that country now more than the UK, so sort of the emotions that I feel towards him. And obviously at the moment I've not been able to see him for a year as well, so it's kind of the flag, for George. So I found it difficult, but got some kind of idea with the connection, really, at least to other things about belonging and which country you belong to, because he's married a Georgian woman, so it's his adopted country in a way now.
Yeah, well, I'm sorry that it was difficult, but this is just it. It's he might identify as feeling like a Georgian citizen much more than he identifies as being a British expat, as we insist on calling them. Not immigrants, we're expats. Do you know what I mean? And it's that association in it that do you know what, I identify more with the flag of Georgia because I prefer, I know it's political, but it's quite a personal thing as well. And that sounds like it might lead to something, I reckon.
Yeah, he's actually very patriotic in a way, to sort of not, he'll have he's not one to sort of fly the flag at all, but I suppose, he feels an identity with his homeland as well.
Yeah.
So I think it's a kind of, you can belong to more than one place, can't you?
Oh,
really?
yeah, of course. Yeah, sorry, I'm not trying to encourage tribalism. No, of course. But again, even that in itself is something to write about.
It's interesting. Yes, thank you.
What about yourself, Donna or Holly? Did either of you have anything to share? Any ideas or thoughts or anything? Donna, yeah?
Yeah, I'll go for it. Okay, I just went for the saltire. Saltire. Sodium anger, sounds about right. Clogged arteries and wee man syndrome, deep fried and internalised sitting class citizen. It's always somebody else's fault. This hard life we're living in. Squares up, all 5 foot of us. Do you want to hear the truth of this? Because we can talk. You don't even need to listen, just fill your head up with liquid and I'll spin it. That's as far as I got.
Cool, I like that. It's a good start. Yeah, like the saltire, like he's such a, and again, obviously, I guess because in the last 5-6 years, because of the referendum, it's taken on another thing, and like, yeah, it's I find them fascinating, but maybe I'm just too political for my own good. Okay. So, has anybody else got anything that they want to share? Any snippets from that or anything? Right.
I mean, you're talking to me, aren't you? I'm the only one that hasn't said anything.
Sorry, I didn't want to directly put you on the spot. Sorry.
No, it's fine. But by process of elimination, I was on the spot. So,
fair play.
I wrote something. I did it wrong. I didn't personify the thing. I likened something else to it. But I don't really have a flag thing, so I just did a white flag instead.
Okay. Nice. I like that. Well, that's just it. Like, you might just have no relation to flags whatsoever. And flags, I mean, I probably should have said this, but like the white flag of surrender, red flags in relationships. There's so many things you can attach to a flag. But I just, your your identity in the world will sometimes immediately lead you to associate certain things and jump on certain things. So it's always worth trying, I think. Okay, so my last exercise, I'm hoping will be a bit more tranquil, is not that it kicked off or anything, but is basically, we've spoken a lot about like clothes and places and being out in public and flags and all these sort of like public things. I just want you to think of yourself, and try and, this might seem a bit weird, I always say that every time, don't I? Try and picture yourself doing something that you feel represents you in the world right now, who you are, who you want to identify as, who you are when you're at your most peaceful, like who you are in the world. What is your place in this world? What is your role in this world? Now, if you've got no idea, like me, maybe just something you really enjoy doing. But I always think it's really nice. This isn't about writing a Twitter biog or showing off or doing something in public or whatever. Not that I'm saying you all do that, but like your identity, like, are you like, what makes you feel most in tune with your identity and who you are? And just try and paint me just a little snapshot, maybe in the third person if you want to play around with it, but just who are you? What do you love doing? What is you in a nutshell? It might be something really simple. It might be watering your plants, or taking a dog for a walk, or it might be writing, or it might be spending time with a loved one, a family member. It might be at the football. It might be dancing. I don't know, but just try and describe yourself just in this moment when you are utterly you. Maybe in the third person, but just for a few minutes. I thought it might be nice just to wrap up. It can be a totally private moment, or it's whatever you want to do. And think about all the conditions that make it perfect for you. So it might be a sunny day or a rainy day, I don't know, whatever. But the sounds, the smells, where you are, who you're with, what you're doing, just create this snapshot and think about all the things that would contribute to making it perfect for you. I'll give you another minute or so. Okay, finish working on your current idea. Take your time, and then whenever you're ready, it'd be lovely to hear some if you're up for it. Anybody fancy sharing a bit?
Yeah, I'll go for
Donna,
it.
yeah.
That was hard because I'd just written something on a very similar vein, so it took me a while to kind of get my head.
Ah, sorry.
But no, don't apologise. Okay, we're the win section, bold as brass, shaking ass in the living room, spinning giggles in my arms, never stop being 5.
Ace. Ace. I like that. I love lovely little snapshot. Anybody else got any little snapshots or lines or anything?
It's really hard to write about yourself, I find. I hate it normally.
Oh.
But I'll just read a little bit. I am the peacemaker, the shoulder to cry on, the mother, the daughter, sister, and friend. I am at home on a hill or in my mother's living room. Usually behind the camera, I'm capturing it all.
Oh, cool. What do you tend to write about then, if you're not writing about yourself? I mean, I don't write about myself much either. I've only just started going, so I'm curious. I'm not criticising. I'm curious.
No. I write about things and events and places and other people and the effect that has on me, but not thinking about who I actually am. I don't. Yeah.
I know, and it's a weird thing to do, isn't it? I know it's odd,
it's
but
a good thing to do.
It's always nice
like
to
Donna's was
try.
brilliant. I love hearing Donna's.
Yeah.
It was really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And sometimes if you don't, sometimes it's only when you write about it that you think, oh, actually, yeah, that's who I am.
Yeah. And we're all right, really, aren't we?
Yeah. I reckon so. Anybody else want to share anything at all? No worries if not.
I've kind of written about when I'm finishing a poem and I think, you know, that, yeah, I've got it, you know, and it's like sort of feeling of kind of elation. It may not last, you know, because I may reread it and say, oh no, I haven't. But, you know, that the moment when I finish the poem of all to end all poems and I've expressed what I held in my soul, a deep, wide, high, all-embracing satisfaction when I found the right words that describe the indescribable and touch the untouchable. And I hold what is transitory, illusory, mystifying, and just that first, last, eternal moment that gives some meaning to this crazy, cruel, but beautiful world. And you know, I suppose, I mean, we're all writing poetry, aren't we? And you know, it's just you're trying to describe the indescribable, really, and to capture that moment. And when you feel you just touched that, or you've touched something, you've conveyed something, kind of difficult to sort of say what I mean, but
No, I totally get
you. Probably all get it because we're all trying to do that, aren't we?
But I love that, and I can just imagine you putting your pen down and just sort of like sighing with satisfaction, just at that moment where you
Just
feel
at
like
that
you've
moment,
captured it,
yeah.
and it's just no, I get that's lovely. That's a really nice little snapshot, and it's always just I'm always just curious to see what people think. So okay, well that's my exercises done. Has anybody got anything else from anywhere in the session that they want to share, or anything they want to ask or say, or just contribute to the chat? Has anyone got anything?
I really enjoyed it. Thank you. Thanks to everyone. It's given me some good ideas to go away with and work on. So
thanks, Jacqueline. I hope so.
Enjoyed it. Thank you.
I hope so.
Yeah, definitely. It's prompted me about things that I'd totally forgotten about.
Yeah. Oh, well, good. I hope so. And the idea of the washing line, I think, is quite interesting. So, like, almost use a washing line with various items of clothing for. It might even be like a work uniform that you didn't like. It doesn't have to be positive, and write a list poem with these items of clothing and see what story comes out. It can just like I'll always remember my bright pink magenta HMB t-shirt. The first time I got a job, and I like I don't know, just little things like that. It can always I just try and give people access to poems, because I can't teach craft. I can't teach like high-end academic stuff, but I like to think that I can give people prompts and nuggets and access points, if that makes sense. So
yeah, that's what's really important, though. Yeah, definitely. That's really important to get those prompts out there, to plant those seeds is really good.
Yeah, I hope so.
Really good. It's been really enjoyable. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you all for joining and sharing your time with me. I really appreciate it.
Is this the one-off? You don't do the Write Out Loud doing a series of them, or is it?
Yeah, so there's a series that are called like masterclasses, where we've had like Rachel Long, Caroline Bird, Anthony and Atsuguru, like high-end established poets. They're like more advanced sessions. But I also wanted there to be some workshops that were, well, build it people who've not been writing for any length of time and maybe weren't quite as like academic and advanced, if you know what I mean, because I wanted different types on offer. But yeah, no, Write Out Loud will keep doing stuff, keep doing a series of stuff at least once a month.
The Anthony stuff was really, really good. We did some feedback sessions, one-to-one feedback sessions. I did that. I think it was last year.
Anthony's amazing.
He's brilliant. I love him.
Well, I'm going to stop recording. I don't know how to do. Oh yeah, here we are. Stop recording. Thank you everyone for who's watching back on the Patreon. Thank you for subscribing.